Sunday wasn't an accident, but a calculated plan by my brother-in-law. His plan to sell my house, take the money, and put me in a nursing home when I was already disabled. He pulled out a chair just before I was about to sit down. The chair that had been behind me my whole life wasn't there when I bent my knees. I fell hard. The sound of bone hitting tile echoed through my daughter's kitchen like a dropped plate. "Mom!" she screamed, but my husband beat her to it, quickly dropping to his knees, his hand on my shoulder, his gaze perfectly calm. "It's okay, June. Just a little fall. You scared us a little fall. The kind you plan for by pulling out a chair just as a 71-year-old is reaching for it. The kind that makes you shake your head in embarrassment as you wonder what will happen to your house and savings account the next time your heart stops." I tasted blood and lemon from the pie that had gone cold on the table. My granddaughter froze, her fork hanging in midair. My daughter Laura, my fierce little girl, who had once fought a boy for pulling a kitten's tail, was hovering nearby, but with a different desire. "Mom, you've been feeling a little dizzy lately," she said. "We were talking about a banister for the stairs. Maybe it's time to think of something bigger." Her husband, Evan, who called me Mom when he needed something, helped me sit up on a chair. "Accidents happen," he said, nodding his chin toward the camera on the ceiling, as if calling to the heavens. "You know we worry. If you were somewhere safer, like the nursing home you sent me a brochure for?" I asked, breathing hard, but my pride was stronger than his hand. He smiled the way men do when they think they are being kind. "It's just logistics, June. With your will and all, it's best to get the paperwork sorted out ahead of time. God forbid anything happens to you." I held the towel to the back of my head and watched him push the chair under the table, as if the tree might forget. How could my own daughter stand here and let him think I might die so soon? "Let's not make this dramatic," she said softly. "You scared me." "I know what fear looks like," I said, "and I know what calculation looks like too." Evan laughed, one harmless gust. "You're tough, June. Always have been. Tough is a word men like to use when they expect you to swallow. He doesn't know the half of it. He didn't see the envelope already waiting in my lawyer's office or the updated beneficiary list they never thought to ask about. He didn't notice the tiny click the kitchen camera made when he slid that chair, or hear the way my heartbeat steadied as something colder than pain settled in. Clarity. They thought I'd fall and keep falling. They forgot who built the table they're standing around. "Finish the pie," I said, folding the towel, keeping my voice even. "We can talk about plans after dessert, because we will talk, and then we'll act. But to understand how a chair went missing and a backbone appeared, I have to start before Sunday, at the first small shift I chose not to ignore. It began with my pills. 3 months ago, I set my morning tablet on my tongue and recognized the wrong chalk. The label read the same, but the shape was different, the bitter cut deeper. I'm not careless with my body. My heart is a metronome trained by grief and walking, and I know what I swallow. I took the bottle to the pharmacy. Gita, who has watched me age one refill at a time, checked the lot numbers, frowned, and printed me a sheet. "Same drug, different manufacturer," she said, but then lowered her voice. "If you feel off, come back. Don't push through." I felt off. Not dizzy exactly. Foggy, urgent sleep at the wrong hour, a heaviness behind the eyes I recognized from the weeks after my husband died, when my mind wrapped the day in gauze so I could keep breathing. I stopped taking the new tablets and the fog lifted by evening. I called my doctor. She confirmed my blood pressure had been perfect, my labs tidy. "Let's stick with what works," she said. "We'll update your chart." 2 days after that, the wrong pills reappeared in my weekly organizer. That organizer doesn't fill itself. I held the little blue coffin of Sunday morning up to the light and felt a heat in my chest that had nothing to do with blood pressure. I looked at the back door. It locks with a deadbolt you can set 1,000 times and still hear open if someone wants inside. I called Caleb, the neighbor who installs cameras for a living and thinks I'm his grandmother, because I fed him when he and his wife moved in with nothing but a futon. He didn't ask questions. He placed 2 button-sized eyes in my kitchen and living room, another over the back door, a slow wink above the garage. "You'll get a chirp when they detect movement," he said, setting the app on my phone. "No monthly fees. The footage sits on a drive in your pantry. You decide who sees it." "I already decided," I said. "Just pray I'm wrong." I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to be the woman who misplaced pills and misread labels, who wandered into her pantry and forgot what she was hunting. I've lost my share of nouns. I still know a chair when it disappears. The first chirp came on a Tuesday afternoon when I was at my book club, nodding along to a plot that moved like wet laundry. The alert flashed on my phone. Motion detected. Kitchen. Then again, back door. I excused myself, claiming a call from my doctor, and sat in my car while the footage buffered. Evan let himself in with the spare key I keep under the 3rd brick. He went straight to the pantry and replaced the pill bottle, then stood at my sink and washed his hands like a surgeon. He looked comfortable. He looked like a man who had done this before. I sent the clip to 3 places: the drive Caleb set up, my email, and an account my lawyer gave me years ago when my husband was sick and we learned what paperwork costs when you can't find it. Redundancy, Ms. Ortiz calls it. Grief-proofing. I wish that were the end of it. It wasn't even the beginning. Thursday, an email arrived from a realtor I'd never met. "So excited to discuss listing options for your charming bungalow," it began. My heart thudded. At the bottom, a line. "Per your son-in-law, Evan, I'll bring the paperwork this Sunday after church." I didn't go to church that Sunday. I went to Laura's for lunch because I wanted eyes on faces when the furniture moved. The chair moved. I bled a little. I took the towel off my head in the hall bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. The cut wasn't deep. What was deep was the scrape over the bone, the kind that takes months to stop reminding you of tile. I dabbed it with antiseptic and pressed a butterfly bandage from the stash I keep in a drawer labeled "Bandages, Sunblock, Mercy." Mercy is soft. It's also precise. Back at the table, plates clinked and forks resumed. My granddaughter Lily shifted and ran water for me as if that could rinse what had just happened. She's 16 and trying not to be. She loves film, shoots on an old camera I gave her, and sees what people don't want the lens to see. "Mom," Laura began carefully between bites, "Evan and I have been talking about helping with your bills. Just a shared account so we can keep track. You don't have to worry about stamps and passwords." "I don't worry about stamps," I said, "and the only password you need is no." Lily almost smiled at that, then looked at her mother and erased it. Evan wiped his mouth. "Don't make this adversarial." "We love you." "Good," I said. "Love is patient. It can wait until after coffee." He laughed again, that gust. When he and Laura moved to this city, they slept on my couch while their apartment painted itself. I babysat Lily overnight so they could go to a concert and remember why they married. I picked Evan up from the dentist when he couldn't drive. I wasn't naive about his ambitions. I just didn't think I'd have to bar my own door against them. After dessert, I asked Laura for a minute alone in her office. She followed me in slowly, hands rubbing each other. The room still smelled like the glue sticks she used in 2nd grade. Now it smelled like toner. "You're bleeding," she said. "I've bled before," I answered. She shut the door. "Please don't start this." "This?" I kept my voice calm. "Define this." "This. Suspiciousness. You haven't been yourself, Mom. You're forgetting things. You put the tea kettle in the fridge. Evan is trying to help, but you only see the worst. I put the kettle in the fridge to cool it fast because Lily was late to practice and you insisted she needed tea for her throat, I said. Are you late too, Laura? What are you late for? Her jaw trembled. Stop. I found an email from a realtor. I saved the footage of Evan in my kitchen. I printed the pharmacy lot numbers. If you're going to accuse me of crumbling, do it with your eyes open. She sank into her chair and covered her face for a second. When she lowered her hands, I saw the girl who swallowed a tooth and cried because she thought she'd never make room for a new one. He says you're being paranoid, she whispered. He says you're going to give everything away to charities. He says Lily needs security. Lily needs parents who hold chairs, not pull them, I said. Tell me something honest, Laura. Are you afraid of him? The question landed on the carpet and lay there, as embarrassed as a dropped sock. Laura's eyes shifted to the door. No, she said too quickly. He's passionate. He's organized. Organized is a word people use when they know another word but can't afford it. I'm going home, I said. We'll talk soon. Not like this. Don't drive, she blurted. Let Evan take you. I looked at the towel in my hand and the chair in the doorway. I'll manage. Outside, I sat in my car and breathed until my hands stopped shaking. I checked my phone. Another alert. Motion detected. Garage. I watched Evan slide a box into the trunk of Laura's car. The label read, Records. He pulled a file out, flipped it, and put it back. He didn't know the camera could see through the garage window at that angle. People forget what's in their periphery when they think they're centered. I drove straight to Miss Ortiz. Her office is in a building that used to be a bakery. Brick, warm light, the scent of sugar rising through wood even decades later. She looks like a librarian and argues like a storm. She has been my advocate since my husband's first scan, and the day we learned kindness needs signatures. You did the right thing, she said, watching the chair video twice. You'll do 2 more right things. Make a police report and tell Adult Protective Services. Not because you want to punish your daughter, but because this is textbook escalation. I don't want handcuffs, I said. I want lines. I want them to see the line and stop. Lines aren't drawn with wishes, she said. They're drawn with ink. We wrote, we named. We delivered a USB drive with the footage and a chain of custody note Caleb taught me to fill out. We documented the pill switch with Gita's printout and my doctor's notes. We notarized an amendment to the trust tightening controls and adding a clause I didn't want, but Ms. Ortiz insisted on. If any person moves to declare me incapacitated without medical cause, that person is removed as a beneficiary. Harsh, I said. Clear, she said. That night, Lily texted me from a borrowed phone, just a heart and a video camera emoji. My phone chirped again. Motion detected. Back door. Evan, alone at 11:53 p.m., stepping into my kitchen with a gloved hand. I didn't call the police. I let the camera roll while he opened my fridge, looked around, then crouched to peer under the sink. He stood, pocketed something, and left the way he came, careful not to turn on a single light. He never once looked up. The next morning, I didn't test my tea kettle. I called the fire department and asked them to send someone to check my gas line. The young man who arrived found the brass coupling hand loose. Ma'am, it looks like it was unscrewed and screwed back. He tightened it, put a little soap on it to watch for bubbles, and took notes. Good thing you called. Good thing I called. Good thing I hadn't turned the stove on for eggs while the window was closed. Good thing luck doesn't sit down when you lose your chair. I printed his report and added it to my folder. Then I drove to Lily's school at dismissal time and waited. She climbed into my passenger seat with her backpack and a face like a drawn curtain. Hungry? I asked. She shrugged. Teenagers are born shrugging. I have a bag of almonds, I said, and a question you don't have to answer. She dug for the almonds. You're not going to ask about my grades, are you? No, I'm going to ask about your stepfather. She froze, then chewed, then swallowed. I hate him when I'm awake, she whispered. When I'm asleep, I forget, and I'm not allowed to enjoy it. I didn't touch her. I let the car be a small church. He moved a chair, I said. I saw, she said. I saw him do it and then pretend to help, and Mom looked at me like if I said anything, our house would dissolve. You took a video? Hope is a small thief. It steals breath. She pulled out her phone. I didn't, but I can share the footage from your kitchen camera because you gave me the login last Christmas when you thought it would be fun to watch squirrels. I gave it to your mother, I said, surprised. She gave it to me because I'm good with tech, Lily said, quoting the air. I'm good at not crying in large rooms, too. I smiled before I could stop myself. That's a bad skill to be good at. She nodded. I recorded something else. Her voice dropped. He was on the phone with someone last week. I could hear him from my room. He was loud, like he wanted God to take notes. He said, the insurance needs an incident report, and she's stubborn, and once we have POA, we can tidy the accounts. I started recording on my laptop because my phone was dead. It's not great, but you can hear him say your name. Can I have it? She nodded and airdropped me a file that weighed nothing and everything. Are you safe? I asked. She smiled without humor. Define safe. In the house, I said, with your mother. She looked out the window. I'm safer when you're there. We ate the almonds and made a plan. Not a drama plan, no slamming doors, no midnight suitcases. A plan with grown-ups who sign their names and wear badges and don't accept it was an accident as theology. I called Miss Ortiz and forwarded Lily's recording. I called Caleb to pull the video with the clearest angle and to enhance the audio without making it look like a movie. I called Geeta and asked her for a letter about my medication discrepancies. I called my doctor and booked a cognitive evaluation, not because I doubted myself, but because judges like fresh paper. Evan called me that night. June, he said, mild and warm. How's the head? Fine, I said. How's your conscience? He laughed. You're not serious. I'm exact, I said. Let's have dinner. You and Laura come to my house. Bring Lily. I'll make stew. We can discuss the condo. He liked that word. Wednesday? Wednesday, I said. 6 o'clock. Perfect, he said. We'll bring a bottle. Bring the chair you borrowed, I said, and hung up before he could repeat his little laugh. Wednesday morning, I sat with Miss Ortiz and 2 people I never thought I'd invite to my kitchen. A detective from the Elder Abuse Unit who looked younger than my good knives, and an APS caseworker with kind eyes. We laid the footage on the table. We listened to Lily's recording. We flipped through the fire department note, the pharmacy letter, my doctor's cognitive score. The detective took notes with a pen that clicked like a metronome. We can't arrest a chair, he said carefully, but combined with the tampered gas line, the medication substitution, the audio where he discusses needing an incident, and the preemptive real estate contact, it's more than smoke. It's a stove, the caseworker said, voice flat. Will you be here during dinner? I asked. They exchanged a look. We can't conduct a sting in your kitchen, the detective said. But if they threaten you, if they mention plans to force medical care or to take your assets, document it. Your cameras are fine. If you posted a notice, I taped a small sign inside my front hall. By entering, you consent to audio and video recording. It looked polite and harmless and stood there like a bouncer. Caleb adjusted the angle on the living room camera and pointed to the pantry where the hard drive hummed. "It's redundant and backed up," he reminded me. "If anyone yanks this, it's already in the cloud." "What if they try to delete it?" I asked. He smiled. "They can try." At 5:30, Lily texted me a single word: "Here." I walked onto the porch with 2 glasses of water like a neighbor. She slid out of the back seat before the car stopped. When I hugged her, she felt like determination. Laura stepped out next, cheeks bright, lips pressed into a careful smile. Evan rounded the hood, carried a wine bag, and pretended he didn't look at my front hall sign. "Ground rules," I said before he crossed the threshold. "No touching my medications. No entering rooms you weren't invited into. No moving furniture without asking." He grinned. "We'll stand in the doorway then." "Suit yourself," I said. We sat at the table that had held cough syrup and homework, tax forms, and sympathy cards. I served stew. Evan poured wine for everyone but Lily, who drank water with competent gulps. Laura fussed with napkins. The evening looked almost ordinary. That was the trap. Ordinary is where harm hides. Evan set down his glass. "June, about the condo." "Yes," I said. "About the condo, and about my will, and about the chair." Laura flinched. Evan didn't. "It was an accident," he said. "You bent, and the chair slipped." "Tile is a bully." "The camera disagrees," I said. "So does gravity." His smile thinned. "You're making this adversarial." "You keep using that word." "It's family when you want my keys. It's adversarial when I keep them." "Mom," Laura said softly, "this isn't helping." "Helping what?" I asked. "Helping me die faster? Helping you two skip 10 years of visits?" "Enough," Evan snapped, then immediately replaced the heat with a soothing tone. "I'm sorry." Emotions. We want what's best. "You've said yourself the stairs are hard." "They're not as hard as my head," I said, "which is fine in case you're tallying." He looked at Laura. She picked up her cue. "We met with an attorney," she said quickly, "just for information. They said a durable power of attorney would simplify things. We thought we'd bring the forms, talk, get everything clear. It's what Dad would have wanted. Organization." I thought of my husband's hands, ink on his fingers, the way he used to write dates on the garden markers like everything that grew needed a witness. Your father wanted dignity and patience, and for us to hold each other up, not pull chairs. Evan reached into his bag and placed a pen and a stack of papers on the table. The top page read, "Durable power of attorney." The second read, "Authorization to list property." "I'm not signing," I said. "You know that." "Then we'll have to discuss other options," he said, so softly I almost missed the blade in the sentence. "We talked to Doctor Levin. He can do a capacity evaluation." "I already did one," I said. "Dr. Warren conducted it yesterday. She found me competent to sign documents and to revoke access. She noted signs of possible coercion by family." The softness cracked. Evan leaned back. "So this is a war." "No," I said. "It's a boundary with a door in it." "You're welcome if you knock." Lily cleared her throat. "I recorded you," she said to Evan, her voice as steady as I'd ever heard it. "The night you said you needed an incident report. The night you said, 'She's stubborn.' I recorded you call Aunt Mel about a bridge loan that becomes easier if Grandma moves." Laura's face drained. "Lily," she whispered. "You can blame me later," Lily said, "but not for telling the truth." Evan's mouth curled. "Teenagers and their interpretations," he said. "Everything is a movie." I stood. "Funny you should say that." I picked up the remote and hit play. The living room TV blinked on. The footage filled the screen. Evan sliding the chair from behind me with a smooth little tug, then stepping back as I fell. The audio caught Laura's scream, his careful, "It's okay," my own breath against tile. We watched it twice. The second time, Laura put her hand to her mouth. Evan stared at the wall over the TV like the paint had offended him. "You," Laura began, but the word stuck. "That's edited," Evan said, but without heat. He sounded tired and a man caught speeding by the radar gun that never lies. "Maybe," I said. "So is your resume." He stood abruptly. "We're leaving." "Not yet," I said. "Two people want to talk to you first." I opened the kitchen door, and the detective stepped in with the APS worker. Their badges were like punctuation. Evan's face did something I'd only seen once, when Lily was 9 and ran into the street and a car stopped inches from her knees. He went gray. "Mr. Parson," the detective said, "we have some questions." "We'd prefer you answer them voluntarily. I want a lawyer," Evan said immediately. "Good idea," I said, and sat down. "They're expensive." "You'll want to keep your receipts?" Laura reached for Lily's hand and found it withdrawn. The air in the room changed. It wasn't oxygen. They don't make a word for it. It's the grain of the table suddenly aligned with the grain of your back. It's the knowledge that you aren't going to beg today. They talked in the living room while Lily and I pretended to load the dishwasher. The caseworker asked Laura if she felt safe, if she needed resources. Laura said she was fine, then said she didn't know, then said she felt sick. The detective asked Evan about the realtor, the phone call, the gas line. Evan said as little as he could. Silence can be a strategy. It can also be an admission that your mouth is where your trouble lives. When they left, the house felt like it had exhaled for the first time in weeks. Laura stood in my hall and stared at the sign. "By entering, you consent," she read aloud. I didn't. "You did," I said gently. "You read it when you came in." She shook her head. "I read it, and I didn't read it. That's my problem. I look away and call it peace." She stayed that night on my couch, used the blanket my mother knit, watched the dark change shapes like a child. Lily slept in the guest room. I slept and dreamed of chairs that were bolted to floors of kitchens that refused to lie. In the morning, Laura made coffee like nothing had happened. We sipped it like everything had. "He's going to say I made him do it," she said suddenly, "that I pushed him, that I wanted the house more than I wanted you. I didn't. I swear I didn't. Wanting something isn't a crime," I said. "What you do to get it is." She cried then quietly in the way of women who don't have time to be loud. "I thought if we got you somewhere safe, the math would solve itself," she said. "I thought I could keep Lily in her school, keep Evan from taking out another loan, keep the roof from tilting. He said the chair thing would be a nudge, something to worry you, not hurt you." I believed him. That's my sin. Believing is easier than building. "You're not the only one who wanted easy," I said. "I wanted to believe you'd stop on your own. I wanted to believe my cameras were overkill. I wanted to eat pie and take a nap and not count my pills." She nodded. "I'll go with the caseworker today. I'll talk. I'll tell her what he unplugged and what he promised. I'll tell her about the envelope of cash he keeps for the guy who notarizes after hours." There it was, the twist that always comes wearing work boots, not heels. "The notary," I repeated. "His friend," she said, "from a poker night. He came by once with a stamp when Evan sold a car to his cousin. I didn't think anything of it." "Think of it now," I said. "Names matter." She gave me one. I wrote it down. Miss Ortiz answered my call on the first ring. "I'm sending a runner," she said. "Keep copies." "Do not hand over originals." That afternoon, the detective called. "We visited your plumber," he said. "The coupling didn't unscrew itself." The notary is under investigation in another matter. We've contacted the realtor. She provided emails from Mr. Parson asking how quickly a property can be listed if an owner is in a memory care facility. He wrote, "We're almost there." Almost is a dangerous word. It's a cliff you pretend is a staircase. Will there be charges? I asked. Likely, he said. We're moving carefully. We don't want to spook him into disappearing with funds. I hadn't considered the accounts beyond my house and my pills. Miss Ortiz had, of course. She had already pinged my bank and placed a fraud alert on my profile. That's when we saw 2 failed attempts to add a new user to my online access. One from Evan's email, one from Laura's. I wanted to hate my daughter, but my anger kept dissolving into something messier. It's hard to hate someone when you still want to braid her hair. Days blurred. Evan moved out of Laura's house and into a friend's spare room that I hope smelled like failure. He called twice. I let both calls go to voicemail. The messages were short. You're overreacting. And I saved them both. Laura met with APS and a counselor. Lily slept at my house 3 nights a week and learned my recipes by muscle memory. We wrote new lines for our days. No more unannounced visits. No more spare keys outside. No more pretending furniture can't move itself. Then the summons arrived. In an envelope addressed in neat type, I found a petition to have me evaluated for guardianship. The petitioner's name was Evans, not Laura's. I laughed, which sounded like a bark and scared the cat I don't own. Miss Ortiz laughed too, on the phone. He's trying to outrun the other process, she said. Bring your cognitive exam, bring your footage, bring Lily if she's willing. Judges understand the difference between concern and control. On the morning of the hearing, I wore my husband's navy sweater and the heavy shoes that make me feel planted. The courtroom was smaller than television and twice as bright. The judge looked like he wanted coffee, and then saw my sign in the hall in his mind, and woke up. Evan sat with a lawyer who looked like a brochure. Laura sat behind them with Lily and stared at her knees. Miss Ortiz sat next to me and organized our papers in a way that made them look like soldiers. Evan's lawyer spoke first. He said words like safety and executive function decline and pattern of falls. He said, my client's only interest is preventing harm. He said, this is not about money. Then why did he contact a realtor before the evaluation? The judge asked, leafing through a folder Ms. Ortiz had delivered to his clerk earlier. Why did he email about timelines? Why is there a fire department report in here about a gas coupling? The lawyer's mouth opened and closed. We haven't seen that, he said weakly. You're seeing it now, the judge said dryly. Miss Ortiz showed the footage of the chair move. She played Lily's recording, where Evan said the word incident like it was as ordinary as laundry. She held up the pharmacy letter and the cognitive score and the note from my doctor about coercion. This is not a case of a loving child concerned for her mother, she said. This is a case of a son-in-law who believes the fastest route to inheritance is through hazards disguised as help. The judge leaned forward. Miss Parson, he said to Laura, do you wish to be heard? She stood, small and steady. I made a terrible mistake, she said. I wanted relief from pressure, and I accepted a plan that hurt my mother. I'm cooperating with a PS. I will not be party to any guardianship petition against her. I will accept whatever consequences come. That was the moment I forgave her enough to breathe. The judge denied the petition with words that sounded like a poem to me. Insufficient grounds, credible evidence of manipulation, protective orders. He entered one on my behalf. No contact from Evan without counsel present, no access to my home or accounts, no more chairs shifted while pretending to pray. He ordered an investigation into the notary and the realtor chain. He suggested, in a tone that felt like a father, that Evan consider the cost of continuing. Cost is a language Evan understands. He blinked at the paper handed to him and signed the copy acknowledging receipt with a hand that finally trembled. Outside the courtroom, the detective met us with a nod. "We're moving forward," he said quietly. "Fraud, attempted assault, tampering with a gas line, maybe conspiracy. It won't be neat, but it will be something." "It's enough," I said. "Neat is for beds." The next weeks were small, which is how you know you won. We didn't celebrate with balloons. We replaced the back door with a keyed lock only from the inside. We changed the passwords I'd already changed. We set up a new routine with Lily. Wednesday dinners, Saturday walks, Sunday movie after church. Laura started a second job for a few months to cover the gap Evan left, then found a better one, because competence finds its own level when you stop stepping around it. Evan's friend, the notary, lost his stamp. Evan himself pled to a lesser charge after the prosecutor laid out the chair footage and the gas report like bones. He agreed to counseling and restitution, which Ms. Ortiz wrote into an order so tight even his excuses couldn't squeeze past it. My trust now holds my house, my savings, and a clause that sends a portion to a community college scholarship in my husband's name when I'm gone. Lily will administer it. She cried when I told her. "Not for the money," she said, rolling her eyes. "For the name." Laura and I went to counseling too, a small room where a woman asked us questions that felt like pulling splinters. We bled a little each session, then stopped. We learned new words. Laura learned to say, "I was wrong," without burying it under "but." I learned to say, "I was afraid," without pretending it was anger. We learned to cook together again, without watching who held the knives. One evening in late fall, after the trees had finished their applause and stood quiet against the sky, Laura came over with a cardboard box. Lily carried a smaller one. "What's this?" I asked. "Keys," Laura said. She poured them onto my table. They clanked like a bell choir. House keys, car keys, mailbox keys, key fobs to places I don't go. "We collected them," she said. "From Evan. From the realtor. From that friend of his. From my purse. I don't want to be the kind of person who sneaks into rooms." I ran my fingers through the pile. "We'll take them to the locksmith," I said, "and then we'll take ourselves to dinner." We ate at a diner where the waitress calls everyone by a pet name. Laura ordered pancakes for dinner like she used to do when she'd had a bad day at school and wanted to turn the clock around with syrup. Lily filmed little snippets of the neon sign and our hands on the coffee cups, and told me about the film festival she wanted to apply to. "What's the theme?" I asked. "Truth," she said simply. I nodded. "Good. It's cheaper than a set winter came." I put rails on the stairs because they make sense, not because I was told to. I installed motion lights outside because motion should be its own warning. I hosted Christmas and set chairs with care. We toasted boundaries. We didn't say the word, though. We used names. We used June, Laura, Lily. Sometimes love is just saying the right name at the right time and meaning it. On New Year's Day, I wrote letters. One to Ms. Ortiz, thanking her for making ink behave. One to Gita, for believing my tongue when it told her a pill had changed its weight. One to Caleb, for eyes that don't blink. One to the detective and the caseworker, because people who show up deserve acknowledgments that aren't typed. I wrote one more letter and then tore it up. It was to Evan, and it said everything I'd wanted to say all year. That I forgave him. That I didn't. That forgiveness and safety are separate rooms. In the end, I let the paper go. I don't owe him words. I owe myself sleep. Spring returned like a woman who'd taken a walk and decided to come back. The maple by my porch threw dappled light again, and I sat beneath it with a cup of good tea and a mind that didn't fog. I watched Lily film bees and Laura plant herbs and thought about chairs. Chairs are simple machines. They're levers for rest. They're a way to say to your body, stay. You only notice them when they're gone. That's what betrayal is, a subtraction dressed as an accident. The remedy isn't more furniture. It's eyes open, paper ready, friends who knock, daughters who say, I see it now, granddaughters who press record. It's patience, which is not the same as waiting. Patience is active. It sharpens knives and fills the pantry and chooses kindness with a backbone. I keep 2 extra chairs on my porch these days. I set them out every morning with the cream for my coffee. One is for whoever stops by. The other is for the part of me that once thought survival was silence. We sit together and watch the street. We don't hold grudges. We hold our ground. If you want to know the real revenge, it wasn't the courtroom where the paper orders or even the money protected, and the house that still creaks the same way when it rains. The real revenge is living long enough to teach your granddaughter how to see and your daughter how to stay, and to make a man who counted your years learn how to count consequences instead. Sometimes I walk into the kitchen and pause before I sit. It's not fear. It's a ritual, a tiny prayer that doubles as a habit. I look, I reach, I trust what I see. Then I sit down. The chair is there because I put it there. Because nowadays, if a hand reaches for it, I reach back, steady, unshaking, very much awake.
My grandma told me this story. I have many more stories. Subscribe so you don't miss the most interesting things.